Hey guys, this is AHC Starlord 29, and this is my review on Scream 4 because I'm hyping myself up and getting ready for Scream or Scream 5. That's about to be out in theaters this Friday. I'm going to see it Saturday, and I'll give you guys a review on it. But Scream 4 was very interesting of a movie nonetheless. It follows right after, well, sort of a couple years right after the third one I did for Halloween movie marathon. You get the same um, cast back, obviously, right there. Um, the legacy characters that we call. Emma Roberts was in this movie, new person, and the person from Nashville, and of course Blackish. But here we go. Here we go. So we get an all new story where it's a couple years later where Gail and Dewey are married. They stay in Woodsboro, and then Sydney comes back from after college and also to her hometown of Woodsboro, and she wrote a book about the tragedy of of her life and how she survived all those um, all those murders and all those murders and all those times she almost got killed, and she wrote a book about it. Obviously, her writing this book brought back brought back a lot of memories, a lot of things back to her hometown of Woodsboro. And of course, everything ran dry, except maybe the teenagers. The teenagers have fun with the stories behind the make believe movie they have in this movie called Stab, that's based off of Gail Weathers' book, that's based off of Sydney, based off of this movie, because the original first movie of this movie was based on actual real murders, and the writer of this movie and the director of this movie put that together and made a fictional story about Scream, obviously. But in this fictional movie, they have more than one. They have seven now. In the second movie, you see only three. Now they have seven. This franchise only has five. It's funny how their fantasy make believe movie Stab in this movie, that's a movie inside a movie, has seven movies. So, of course, they don't have Randy in this. They have two drama nerds in here telling you the rules and the rules of a reboot, where the reboot tries to give you something original, but also gives you something new. And they bring, of course, obviously they bring back the legacy cast, which the legacy cast was already signed into this movie. So that's what the whole point of this was. So basically, from the story where Gail is Gail wrote her last book and she's dried up. She's trying to write a new book. She gets inspired by these new things that are happening in Woodsboro, and then Dewey's now the sheriff. Like I said, well, I didn't say that, I don't think, but he's the sheriff of Woodsboro, and he's trying to help solve this time murders. And then, of course, um, Sydney is just on her tour for her book, and it's just she's on a tour for her book, and Woodsboro happens to be there, and of course they get an alert that the killer is at her book signing and all that stuff, and people frame her, putting stuff in her car like blood and a knife inside her rental car, and then from there things start happening to other teenagers in this. So basically, one scene of teenagers you meet Emma Roberts, which is Jill, which her name is Jill, which is Sydney's cousin, which I never knew she had. Um, you know, so um, you meet her and going to school and all that stuff, and there, she has some friend that she has some weird, uh, cinema club friends, and one dude has like a little thing that has a camera and a microphone and all that stuff. But basically, when they go home that night, they see, next door where her friend lives next door. You see, um, Scream. When you see Ghostface, not Scream, Ghostface killing one of their best friends, and this time Ghostface in every scene is brutal, especially starting with this scene where they get a knife. He gets his knife, shoves her against the wall, shoves her on her bed, stabs her, blood goes everywhere, and Sydney goes investigates that because of course, these teenagers think that Ghostface this is a joke when they call when he calls and stuff like that. Sydney goes investigates that. That's one of Jill's friends, and basically, people start disappearing, appearing one after another. But the killing in this was brutal for Ghostface, and then Gail Weathers follows them to a party called the Stabathon, and Stabathon is actually a real thing that they do in Woodsboro, an anniversary of the movie and anniversary of um, all that happened in Woodsboro with Sydney. Of course, Ghostface is still after Sydney, so of course Gail follows them in there, and then her cameras go face differently, face to a different side. Gail gets stabbed. Um, Dewey comes to the rescue, and then all this other stuff. So it leads into the climax of our film, where, of course, they shut down the Stabathon movie experience, and then of course everything starts happening like the stew house where Ghostface starts killing each other, and then you find out that Jill has been the one who's been doing the murders the whole time because she reveals herself to her cousin Sydney, and she's doing it because it's her Sydney had her 5 minutes of fame. Now she wants 5 minutes of fame, and then she kills all her friends. She doesn't care about her friends because she wants to be famous. She wants to be really famous and more famous than Sydney, and it's all been about Sydney, Sydney, Sydney. Or if you want to do a reference to Brady Bunch, Marsha, 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 Sydney, Sydney, Sydney. You get my point. Um, and also, then they do this trivia thing where Michael Myers and um, Jason and all that stuff ask those questions towards the end of that, and the regular trivia movie asking questions, and then um, do the same thing that they do in the first movie, put put a guy in the chair and hostage, which was her partner, of course, and then the girl, the partner, her partner likes the girl, and then of course, he ends up stabbing her because it's the second killer. That's how these Scream movies work, and Jill had too much time on her hands. She damaged her own face, her body, and all that stuff just to frame all this. After that, so they were trying to rip off the Billy Loomis and Stu thing. Then they go to the hospital to see if Jill's okay, and then at the hospital, Jill makes a comment to uh, um, Sydney because Sydney's in the hospital recovering at the same time because she got stabbed by Jill at the after party of the stab thon thing, and then basically she says, "Oh, this is supposed to happen at the house," and then since they're making fun of reboots, Sydney's like, "This is an alternate ending," and that's also a reference to uh, Halloween, where Halloween 2, the basis of the whole movie, takes place in a hospital. Same thing with Halloween Kills. The new franchise takes place some part of it takes place in the hospital. So really, I know this was made in the early 2000s, and this is still the part four of this movie is still the modern one until the new one comes out Friday. Um, It's just interesting how they had that there. And then she's like, "Why don't you know?" She tells Cindy, "Why don't you die?" She's like, "Are you um Michael Myers or something?" Um, and then they also mention it like when they go to a the cinema club. They asked Gail set the meeting up for them to have her have Cindy in the little after school meeting, and they also referenced her as like Jamie Lee Curtis, or you know her character in Halloween. But also going back to that, it's kind of like showing there, but it's basically towards the end of this, Jill had a lot more time to frame herself to make sure that her ex boyfriend did all the murders, and then she was just too crazy. And then towards the end, I actually see why this movie didn't make that much money in the box office, because it was just kind of weird how Jill was trying to make herself seem like her like she was something, you know. But we all know that you can't mess with the original. And she even Sydney says, "There's one thing you don't get about reboots. You don't mess. You don't f with the original. You know what I'm saying?" So the fourth one was okay, but I rather, for me, the first three were better than this one. Um, I can't wait for the new one, and I might come back on this YouTube channel to talk about the fictional movie called Stab, and how I think they should do a spin-off of this after they do maybe three more um, movies of the new franchise, if the new reboot slash fifth installment of this movie happens. I mean, happens to make other sequels. But you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, put down a comment, and if you haven't checked out my 2021 best movies of the 2021, check that out. I have that out. It's cut short because of storage on my phone, but I might do a part two to that because there's some other movies I have not seen yet, and I might do a part two to that one. So again, like and subscribe, and I'm out. And don't let Scream get you on the way out. I mean, don't let Scream movie get you on the way out, and don't let Ghostface catch you on the way out. Peace.